Good afternoon. In the book of Proverbs, it talks about us serving better together than separately. It says that two keep warm under the same blanket, or it says that a strand of three makes a stronger cord. It reminds us in that passage how important it is for us to be in community with each other. None of us were designed to do things alone. Back when I was first in ministry, I entered youth ministry right out of seminary. I went to Detroit, Michigan, and there in a suburb of Detroit, I served for a couple of years as a youth pastor. And one of the first things that I did that summer after arriving is I took the youth of the church on a float trip. That is where you float down a river on inner tubes. We went up to the central part of Michigan, and there we began floating down the river, and we camped that night as well in the campground. As we were floating down the river, we were deep in conversation. They were getting to know me, I was getting to know them, and we were deep in conversation with each other. And we didn't notice when we got a couple miles down the river that apparently there was a sign. Nobody saw it. Apparently there's a sign that said, "Exit the river here." We kept on going. The river got deeper. It got narrower, got a little bit swifter. But what we noticed is that on both sides of the river bank was no longer a slight rise. Now it was almost like a ravine. And the river banks were very steep, almost straight up and down. And they went up about 25 or 30 feet. And we began to realize that we had gone too far. And now we didn't know how we were going to get out of the river. We stopped where we were. The river wasn't very deep. It was maybe only about 2 or 3 feet deep. And so we got up on the river bank and we began to formulate a plan. We were able to stand on the edge of the river, but we couldn't go any further because the riverbank was so steep up to the main road. And so what we did is our plan was this. We had two guys situated at the bottom of the hill. And then it was 6 or 7 feet up from there. We had two more guys. They were able to make their way up there. And then they were able to help. Those guys were able to take the hands of two more guys and help them to go up to a third tier. So we had 2 people, and then 2 people, and then 2 people all the way up the hill. And then we were able to help the girls. The girls came along and took the hands of the guys, and the guys helped them up to the 2 guys right above them, and those 2 guys helped the girls up to the 2 guys above them. Hope this makes sense. And then eventually they were able to move those people all the way to the top of the hill. And then the people on the bottom were able to help to get help up by the next 2 guys, and pretty soon everybody was up the hill. And the interesting thing that we realized is that none of us could have made it up that hill by ourselves, by just one of us. And yet we moved 12 people up that hill because we did it together. We did it by taking each other's hands and hoisting each other up until everybody was to the top of that hill. It suddenly struck me as we made it to the top of the hill that this was the way community is supposed to be. This is the way a youth group was supposed to be. And I took advantage of that situation to be able to share around the campfire that night that when Jesus chose 12 disciples, he chose those people to help and serve one another and then to go out and to serve the world. And that we all need to be in community together. That is part of a youth group, that we need to come to youth group and we need to make friends in youth group so that we can become a community, because we can't do it alone. We can't be by ourselves and function and do very well. And so as a church today, we need to remember that we are part of a community, that none of us can make it on our own, that we're going to stumble, we're going to fall, we're just going to flail around and not really be able to accomplish anything. We're going to find ourselves in trouble. We're going to find ourselves lonely. We're going to find ourselves broken because we don't have the community that we need to be the church that God designed us to be. I want to encourage you. Make sure you're part of the community. Don't take for granted that you can somehow do this on your own. You can't. None of us can. May God help you. May God bless you. May God help you to be a greater part of the community. Amen.